Hello there. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, the show that is dedicated to making the world safe for ADHDers. I am a clinical neuropsychologist in private practice and the father of an ADHD child. Probably one half to three quarters of my practice involves evaluating and treating ADHD children, adults, and families. And over the course of years of raising my own ADHD child, I probably have made all the mistakes it's possible to make. And honestly, back in those days, we didn't know very much. There was even a lot of stuff saying, I'm not even sure there is such a thing as ADHD. But that was first it was first written about in like the 1700s. And it was first treated with stimulant medication in about 1937. So it's got a good long history of being a proven diagnosis. And currently, we have bunches of research suggesting there are actual neurologic differences in an ADHD brain compared to a neurotypical brain. And that's the distinction we use, ADHD versus neurotypical. And today I'd like to talk about trips, routines, and organization. I just got back from the disaster of all trips. It was a business trip. I live in Virginia. I'm flying to Santa Barbara, California. I have a little tiny airport where I live, and so we have to fly to a hub, and then from the hub, we usually have to fly to another hub, and then Santa Barbara doesn't command very much attention compared to other cities in California, so you have to fly on another one of those puddle jumper airplanes to get to Santa Barbara. And everything's screwed up. Our plan was solid. They confirmed it, but then the airlines had major difficulties. So instead of us leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning and getting there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like the plan, we left at 9 o'clock and got there at 6:30, quarter to 7. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have an evening meeting that started at 6:30. We got there about a half hour, 40 minutes late. It's still pretty good, but it screwed up. And then on the trip back, we are literally packing our suitcases on the morning of departure, and we get an email saying that our flight has been canceled. And all the other flights are therefore canceled because you can't make the connection. And we eventually got out of there, but we basically spent the whole day twiddling our thumbs in Santa Barbara, and then having to take a red eye from Phoenix to Charlotte. If you've never done a red eye, I do not recommend it. It's it's different, and it is a challenge, and it also throws your biorhythms way out of order. And I just couldn't help thinking, as we were going through all this, how much, and it wasn't easy for us, but if we had our ADHD kids with us, how would we have handled that? And what can you do in that kind of situation? And of course, most folks aren't going to be flying across country with their kids just for a couple of days. This was a business trip. So, but this is summer. We have summer vacations. We have trips to everybody's, grandma's, to the lake, to the beach, whatever the family vacation routine is. And that brings up ADHDers, although they are outside the box thinkers, they depend on routine to get the regular, what we might call activities of daily living done. They don't do well when everything is chaos and disorganized. I mean, it's okay if they're the only ones in the room who's disorganized, but they don't do well when mom and dad and the whole family are disorganized. They need a certain routine. They need a certain consistency in how things are done. And you got to kind of make a distinction between routine and organization. Okay, routines are the basic things you do every day that you don't really think about very much. You know, what time do we get up? What time do we eat breakfast? How do we do lunch? How do we do dinner? When is homework time? All those kinds of things. And routines are really important for ADHDers. Actually, they're important for all of us because we all get a little bit screwed up if our routines are disrupted. Your routines actually use a different part of memory than say when you've got a situation and you're trying to remember some fact or something like that. But this is when you what's called procedural memory. And procedural memory is just a fancy way of talking about habits. You do something so often you don't even think about it. When you're a kid, it's a big deal to learn to tie your shoes. After a while, you don't even think about it. Same thing with brushing your teeth. When you're young and just learning, it's horrible. Requires coordination, fine motor control, all those good things. And you have some troubles with it a lot of times. After a while, you don't even think about it. As you get older, you establish like a going to bed routine. You don't even think about it. You just do what you've always done. As you get older, it gets a little more complicated because usually there are more things you have to do. But in general, you're not thinking about what to do next. You're just doing it because this is the way you always do it. And your brain likes that because that means your brain's not having to work so hard making constant decisions. And it can save the energy and the space for any emergency or untoward things that may come up. So that's routines. And routines are really important for ADHDers and ADHD families. They need to count on when they have to do this and when they have to do that and so on. When's homework time? When's dinner time? Is everybody going to be there? Is nobody going to be there? All those kinds of things. They need to be part of a routine. And when you go on vacation, you try to keep those routines as much the same as you possibly can. I am continually amazed at ADHD families when they have summer vacation. Kiddo doesn't have to get up and go to school at dark 30 in the morning, whenever it is. And so they let him or her stay up all night. Meals are whenever catch as catch can, and everything sort of falls apart, honestly. And then in late August, early September, they try to get back onto the school routine, and shoot, they can't. Or they have a horrible time, and they think there's something wrong with their child, and maybe things have gotten worse, or maybe the medication isn't working anymore, or all sorts of reasons that don't really take into account the fact that they have gotten their child totally out of the routine and are going to have to work like crazy for a month or so to get him back into the routine. And, I know this sounds obvious, but I can't tell you how many families I've seen in which this is the case every year. And he just hates it when he has to go back to school. Well, no, what he's had is 3 months of doing exactly what he wanted to when he wanted to do it. And now you're trying to get him back into the fold of doing what he needs to do to get to school on time. It is not a big brain drain to understand what's going on there. So routine is very important. It's also something you don't really think about. Whereas being organized, that you think about. Organization is the idea that you approach things logically and develop some kind of an orderly plan to get certain things done. And that has to happen all the time when situations change. It's a more general concept than routine. Routine's already been decided and acted upon. When you're doing things organization style, you're trying to get a specific goal done, usually by a specific time, and you have to change what you do, when you do it, and so on, to get to the goal. Okay, and then when we talk about vacations, vacations are great, you know. I mean, people need vacations. You need to get away from the routine. You need to get away from the daily sort of, I don't want to be too negative about it, but it's, you know, doing the same thing over and over again can wear you down. And having all job responsibilities all the time and da-da-da-da-da. So travel is wonderful. Travel is great. It gives you a different perspective on things. You can actually get away from the work environment. Although it's a lot harder now than it used to be. You know, I have kids who are of working age and, you know, they think they're off, but that phone is always ringing and, you know, they are always solving some kind of problem over the phone. So it's not as good as it used to be. But when you get away, and when your ADHD gets away too, it can be a break for everybody. And, you know, when the goal of a vacation is to relax and have fun, how can you argue with that? The thing that you need to understand, though, is that although an ADHDer will typically like whatever vacation plans you have, it's a change. And you've got to build it up. You've got to announce what's happening early, and you've got to keep announcing it and keep talking about the kinds of fun we're going to have and the things we're going to do when we get to the lake or the ocean or whatever. And it's important to build some positive expectations about that, even if they've done it before, even if you know, this is part of what you do every year. It's important to talk it up, and then a lot of times, if there's travel involved, you know, if going to wherever you're going for vacation is an 8-hour drive or more, you want to set some things up. You want to do some things that are special. My parents, and I did the same thing with my children, used to have a kind of a goodie bag for the trip. Is that, when we get in the car, you can have, you know, this, and it was always, you know, it was nothing very expensive. It was, you know, like, this is back in the days when they had comic books, and they were, you know, 25, 50 cents a copy, which I know dates me incredibly, but we used to really look forward to that, you know. And as we got older, sometimes they were books, science fiction or something. Hardy Boys. Oh, just dated myself again. But, you know, things we could presumably do on the trip, and things that we would enjoy doing, and would distract us from punching each other in the arm, you know, in the back seat. We also sometimes got some small toys, especially when we were younger. You know, mostly dollar store kind of things. You know, stuff you wouldn't really expect to last very long, but it made the trip. Nowadays, I mean, there are so many more electronics that have, great options, but there are still some things that you can get that will help pass the time for your child, and just that it feels a little special. And another thing that you need to consider is a lot of times we'd have some snacks in those goodie bags. Just word of advice: no sugar, no candy, no chocolate. It's ADHDers, sugar does not cause ADHD, but ADHDers seem to be way more sensitive to high sugar and low blood sugar, and it can make the back seat into a battle zone if you flipped them a bag of M&Ms or something. So don't do that. Let them get their grease fill on the way. Let them get chips and that kind of junk, but do not fill them up with a bunch of sugar unless you want to pay for it. So that's pretty much what we think about in terms of travel and travel trips and that kind of thing. Also, though, it's a good idea when you get to your destination that you still keep some kind of a routine down, some kind of a standard way that you do things. Okay, you might let them sleep in a little bit the first day or so, but after that, we need to be getting up pretty close to the normal time because we got stuff to do, things to do, fun to have. So let's get up there, get up early and go get it. And most of the time when it's presented that way, you won't have a huge problem with it. Well, till you get teenagers, and then as I remember it, teenagers will have problems with almost anything. So, but when your children are younger, the idea of getting up early and maybe going for a canoe ride on the lake, or kayaking, or even just swimming. And so if you're going to the ocean, a boogie board and being able to surf the waves and that kind of stuff. But you want to keep a routine going. You don't want staying up all night kind of stuff, because like I said before, that will come back and really cause you some difficulties. Once you get them off schedule, once you get them so that they're like, it's as if they were on second shift or something, that they're not even thinking about going to bed until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you are going to have a murderous time when you get back home trying to get them back on schedule. Okay? The farther they get off schedule, the harder it is to get them back on. So try to keep bedtime pretty close to the normal time, within an hour or so, certainly. No more than that. But like I say, I've seen families where the kid stays up until 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning playing video games or that sort of thing. And then there's no hope. I mean, well, there's hope, but it's just takes forever to get them back on schedule when you get back home. And you get even more resentment. It's always easier when people haven't had something, then you don't have to take it away. But if you have to take it away, it can be murder. And anyway, so don't do that with your ADHD child. To still keep a schedule, still keep some kind of a routine going, even while you're on vacation, and that will make getting through the summer and getting through all the trips and things much, much easier for you. And watching diet is okay. There's a lot of poofda about diet. Okay, diet does not cause ADHD. Okay, ADHD is genetic. You're born with it. It's a neurologic condition. But part of ADHD is what makes you more sensitive, particularly to blood sugar shifts. You know, your brain is designed to work on a nice normal range of blood sugar. Okay, and that is maintained and sustained by protein, complex carbohydrates, basically all the things you know you should be eating, lean meats, fruits and vegetables, that kind of stuff. When you eat high sugar stuff, you eat a candy bar, your blood sugar goes way up. It shoots way up. And then your brain, your hypothalamus, so whoa, wait a minute, what happened here? And then your insulin is secreted at a high level and your blood sugar goes from way up here to way down here. Either one of those situations, either very high blood sugar or very low blood sugar, is painful, uncomfortable, tends to make people irritable, tends to make people nasty. So clearly, you don't want your ADHD child to be experiencing either one of those, either hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia. So lay off the sugar, but it's not because sugar causes ADHD. Okay? The number of things that have a high sugar content are probably very well known to you. Huge number of children's breakfast cereals, huge number of snack foods. Just if you use them or give them to your child, make sure you counterbalance that with some protein so that their whole blood sugar level kind of balances out. But anyway, like I said, diet does not cause ADHD, but ADHD makes you more sensitive to certain parts of diet. You know, basically, the high sugar, white flour, white vegetables, that kind of stuff will be a problem. So, for your own sanity, stay away from that stuff. Okay, that's what I've got for today. You know, a lot of it's based on just recently coming back from a very disastrous trip, and not doing all that well myself this week. So, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras. This is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, and you remember, we're trying to keep the world safe for ADHD. Because we need ADHDers. We need people who think outside the box. Because the other thing we need to remember is that normal people don't change the world. But if the world's going to be changed, odds are somebody with ADHD or ADHD traits is going to be the one to do it. So, we'll catch you next time. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, as I said before. My website is terrygingrasphd.com. I have a #1 bestseller on Amazon, ADHD Strategic Parenting. And by all means, feel free to contact us. Ask us any questions, any topics you'd like to see covered here. I'd appreciate the input. Okay, thank you, and we'll see you next week.